Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, fellows. Good morning, guys. Welcome to another episode of the Tom Tombekai Unplugged Podcast. Yeah, with me. We have another episode today. Interestingly, it's about uh, technology, information technology to be specific, how to get an RT and information technology job without having the requisite experience that you might think you need to have in order to have an RT job. How to get in the RT industry, maybe through an entry level job that is a help desk job, and what skills you might need, you might not need, maybe a bachelor's in information technology, or maybe a diploma or certificate, but what relevant skills that you will need in order to obtain an entry job into the information technology industry, specifically the technology industry, because the IT entry level job, which is a help desk job, might be the entry level into information technology, but when you enter that field, then you can use that position to diversify, to maybe go into cyber security, to go into cloud computing, to go into digital information and other spheres of the technology innovation world. So today's episode, we are going to be covering what it takes, what are the skills you need in order to get into the information technology job, whatever maybe certifications, what specific courses you need to study, whether online courses, whether in-person courses, what you will need to do in order to obtain or acquire entry level RT job, which is specifically a help desk job, or desktop assistant job. That's the entry level into the RT industry. So we are welcome. We welcome you on this episode. We are glad to have you guys. And so today we are going to be looking at the RT industry, what it takes to enter into that industry as an entry level staff, what skills you need, what are the requirements, what certifications you might need to enter that field. So we are going to be looking at this video of Professor Mensah, a very astute and knowledgeable individual in the information technology field. And this video is basically going to cover what it takes to get into the IT industry, and we are going to look at skill sets that you might need, as well as the competence level you need to have in order to acquire an entry level RT job. So basically, let me do some housekeeping here. Let me check. Just got a notification from Rumble that we're live on Rumble. And then let me look at Facebook and YouTube. YouTube, yes, YouTube. Do the housekeeping to make sure. So we are live on YouTube. We are live on YouTube. I see in the live, but I need to see my app. Let me see. Live on Rumble. Okay. So we are live. Let me look at. We are live on YouTube. We should be live on Facebook as well. And we are expecting a guest on the show. Our guest is Anthony Kente. Last Saturday edition of the show, we were able to talk to him briefly on a live podcast, and he sent in some questions relative to my perspective on innovation, transitioning from intellectual property international trade to the innovation world, having interest in cyber security, information technology. And he sent me some few questions that we would like to answer on the live. And so anytime, hopefully we expect him to join the live podcast as we proceed. So we look forward to Anthony Kente, to seeing, getting Anthony Kente on the live. Uh, he just he confirmed that he will be joining us by 11:30 Liberian time. So we look forward to seeing Anthony Kenty on the live. So Anthony, if you are live, you can join us anytime. Send me a message. Let me bring you up on the live, and then we can address some of the questions and queries you sent us. So let me go over the questions Anthony sent. Let me go over the questions Anthony sent. So last Saturday, while we were live, Anthony Kente joined the live, and he made some inquiries as to my interest, having had a background in intellectual property law, international trade, uh, a decade of experience doing that job, and now transitioning to cyber security, having interest in the technology and innovation field. And so he sent these questions. He sent about 5 questions. And so basically, here are the questions he sent in. What was your motivation to diversify your learning more into the technology level? That's the first question that he sent in. The second question is, what has been your impact since the past 2 to 3 years? Okay, very interesting questions. Number three, how this technology has shaped your life to the current day. Okay, since I came into technology, how has it shifted my life and my worldview? Number four, what do you hope to achieve, or what difference do you want to bring to this technology world? What is my contribution? What I foresee my contribution being in the technology world? Number five, with the case of your country low employment rate and high level of unskilled knowledge to technology, how will you balance the technological level and employment in your country? So these are the questions, 5 questions Anthony sent in last Saturday, and we are looking forward to having him on the podcast today, and so we can be able to address these 5 questions he raised. Very interesting and relevant questions that we are open and available to address. And in the future, we are going to have more guests on the show. Those of you that follow the show on a regular basis, normally we have the show on the weekend. And so you can send me a message if you would like to be a guest, if you have some questions and queries, and you have some contribution to make, you can send me a message. The podcast is open, and you can send me a message and we can discuss. We can arrange for you to come on the live and join us anytime. So these are the 5 questions Anthony Kente sent, and then we look forward to him joining on the live podcast, and then we'll be able to address these 5 questions. So basically, that is one of the issues we're going to address here. And after that, then we can look at the video with Professor Mensah, a very astute and a well experienced professor in the technology space. He's basically specialized in giving trainings to those interested in entering the technology space and those that already have jobs in the technology space. So, Professor Mensah, we are going to be looking at how to get an IT job without experience, meaning the relevant experience that you might think you need, and he will further expand on what basically you need in order to enter or to obtain an entry level job in the active industry. So basically that's it, and these are the questions sent by Anthony. So we are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Rumble. Excuse me there. So we are live. Let me pin this. Let me unpin this stuff and pin it to. Let me pin the video to. Okay, I was trying to pin. Okay, let me pin it here. So I pin the video and then we can share it to other groups as well. So Anthony, if you are anywhere, you can join the live, or anytime you can join the live, because maybe we just start with the video uh, from Professor Messer on how to get an entry level job into the IT industry without experience. This is what we are going to cover here today. But at any time, Anthony, you can send our message and we'll put you on the live. We will suspend the video at any time to get you on the live because uh, you have been a long time supporter and you raised some critical questions that we need to address and further expand on. And so we are looking forward to having you on this episode of the Tom Tombekai Unplugged Podcast. You know, it is interesting having had a career in uh, international trade, regulations, and governance, and then working on intellectual property and trying now to transition to the innovation, the IT, and cyber security space. It's a very interesting dynamic, but I will not go into detail because I want for Anthony to come on, and then as part of my discussion, I'll be able to address his 5 questions and further expand into why I decided to shift or decided to acquire more skills, because I can still do my intellectual property and international trade jobs. I can still work in that field while acquiring additional knowledge, or I can decide to shift totally into the technology space. So it's all left with me. The more knowledge, the more skills and competence you acquire, uh, you have the more choices to make. But it's more about the future. It's about uh, protecting your knowledge, your skills, and acquiring new skills for the future. Since we live in a technologically advanced world, as we advance on technology, every year there's a new technology, there's a new innovation, and every year technology is making critical advancement affecting the job market. So, in order to stay strong, you need to acquire new skills. So, I'll just leave it at that and look forward to Anthony Kente joining us, and then we can go deeper into the discussion. So, that's it. That's it from my end. To this episode, we are going to be covering how to get into the IT industry, or basically get an IT job without experience. What does it take for you to get an IT job without experience? Is it possible? Is it plausible for you to get an IT job or an entry job into the IT industry without experience? What does it take? This is the topic we are going to be exploring today. So I think what I will do here is let's look at our benchmark, our 30 minutes. Our 30 minutes, we have to meet the 20 minutes benchmark, and before we go into any third party content here. So we have gone 15 minutes on the live, and let's see if we can reach the 30 minutes benchmark. From my end here in Basel, it's not that sunny, but the weather is calm. It's not a hot weather, but it's bright outside. So on a Saturday, maybe I can go take a stroll. I've been indoor for quite a while. I haven't been outdoors, so on a Saturday I can go take a stroll in the city center. See some friends and just be around. So, welcome guys to the Tom Tombekai Unplugged Podcast. We are glad to have you on this episode. This Saturday morning, October 11th, 2025. October 11th, 2025. Next week, Saturday, let me see the time here. I'm not sure. I have an event. So, next week, Saturday, maybe we'll have the podcast on a Friday, or I would not like to do the podcast on a Sunday, but so maybe Friday we'll have the podcast because Saturday I have a hacking event to attend to Saturday morning. So Saturday early in the morning, it's 11 a.m. So maybe I can do the podcast maybe by 8, and then I'll have the time to leave for my hacking event by 11 a.m. So maybe I can start the podcast Saturday by 8, 9, 1 hour, 30 minutes in, and then I'll have sufficient time to leave for my hacking event on Saturday. But Saturday, I have this hacking event with some friends, of a group of friends that we're going to attend. And so Saturday, either we have the podcast on Friday or early Saturday morning to allow me sufficient time to go for my hacking event and to be on time. So that's it. That's it. Okay, that's it. Okay, then let's go into this video. Let's go into this video. Let's go into this video, and the video is from Professor Mensah. Professor Mensah is an astute IT professional. He has spent over 30 years in a information technology field, doing IT or cyber security, cloud computing, several different development operations. He have been in a innovation and technology space for a period over 30 years, and so he is well versed in the issues of technology, IT, cyber security, cloud computing, development ops, all these subject matter. He is well versed in it. So that's why we are going to be using some of Professor Mensah's video to enlighten our audience on how to get an IT job without experience, what it takes, what is required of you if you are interested in entering the information technology field as an IT help desk officer or a help desk assistant, what skills you need to have and in order to enter that field. And so basically this is what we are going to be covering today. But in the same vein, we are expecting Anthony Kente to join us at any time. We can cut the video and go. He have some relevant questions for us that we'd like to address. So when he come at any time, we can cut the video and bring him on a live for me to be able to address the questions he asked me. Without further ado, let's go into the video. And Anthony, anytime you can send me a message and then you'll be able to come on the live. Send me a message at any time and then we'll bring it on the live. I'm not seeing Anthony here. I'm not seeing him, but at any time you can send me a message, Anthony. Let me bring it on a live, then I'll be able to address the questions you raised regarding my shifting or acquiring additional skills relevant to the technology field, specifically on cybersecurity. So let me share my screen and so we can go into the video. I've been on live about 21 minutes. So let me share my video and then let me share my screen and then we can go into Professor Mensah's video. Here's it. And this is it. This is the video. How to get an IT job without experience, Professor Mensah. So that is our topic for today. As you can see, it's a journey we are on. And in the picture there's a mining that could be the Swiss app. And so we are beginning this journey on how to get an IT job without experience. This is the topic for today. And while we're going through this topic, at any time, at any interval, we can stop the video and we have a guest, Anthony Kente, with 5 questions that he has posed to us on the last episode, and we are available to address those concerns. So let's go quickly into the video. Anthony, I'll be waiting on your text. I'll be waiting on your call to get you on the live. So let's go into the video with Professor Mensah. How to get an IT job without experience. Go.
Hi, I'm James Messer from ProfessorMesser.com, and I want to talk to you about one of the most commonly asked questions on my website, which is, how do I get a job in IT if I don't have any experience? This is a question that I faced as someone who has been in the IT industry for years as a systems engineer, as a systems engineer manager, and as someone who has actively hired people for jobs in IT. Everything we're going to talk about in this video is based on the experiences that I've had in information technology. We're going to go through a lot of different topics, and what you're going to find is that there's no magic solution to this particular problem. There's really more of a strategy that is very broad, and we're going to talk about every little piece of this strategy as we go through this video. You may want to take a lot of notes as we step through different portions. We're going to learn about the fundamentals of the things you should know and things you may want to be able to do to be able to get that job. And you'll have some different ideas of how to build that strategy. It's never just one thing. It's a combination of a lot of different things that is going to allow you to put your best foot forward and get that IT job, especially if you're competing against people who already have experience in the industry.
3 reasons to start learning with Data Camp.
Number 1, start for free. Learn the data and AI skills companies are hiring for.
So as we go through this video, make sure to make your own notes. And if you're somebody who has already been in the industry or you have other ideas of things that I may not mention here, feel free to put them in the YouTube comments below. Here's a copy and paste of an email that I received that is very similar to questions I get all the time, either in my inbox or people who call in to my study group. And the question is, I've been studying for my A+ and hopefully would like to move to the security track, but without an associate's degree or previous experience, how do I make myself marketable or find jobs that would hire me solely based on the certifications? Before we get started, let me set expectations of what I mean when I talk about a job in information technology. There are very broadly two schools when it comes to these technical type positions. One of these is the information technology side, and the other one is the computer science side. Now, I lump into computer science everybody who is a developer. If you're building applications, if you're an expert in understanding these object-oriented languages, and somebody who really works with code all day, every day, then you fall into the computer science side. Everybody else is on the information technology side. You're managing desktops, laptops, mobile devices. You're taking care of the servers. You're working with Linux and Windows. You're protecting the data and the databases in your environment. You're managing data centers. All of those things fall under information technology. And generally speaking, there's not a lot of overlap between the two. As I go through this video, I'm going to talk to you from the perspective of someone who's been in information technology or IT. But some of these could still apply to someone who was working on the computer science side as well. The IT market is a massive market. There are jobs everywhere in IT. And if you looked at the numbers just in the US, this is a $1.7 trillion market in 2020. And that's only 32% of the market worldwide. Another nice thing that I love about IT is there are all kinds of different jobs. If you like working with operating systems, there's a job for you. If you like working in a data center or with databases or with networking or security, there's jobs in those areas as well. And what you'll find is you may start on one type of topic, working with operating systems, and that might lead you into networking, which then leads you into security. It's never any one thing, and you'll always have options available for growth. This means that you get to decide what happens with your career, and you're never going to be limited or in a particular place where there's nowhere to go. If you'd like to make more money, there's another job that will allow you to do that. If you'd like to have a better balance of work and home, there are jobs that allow that. Some jobs allow you to work at home. Some jobs require you to see the world, and you get to decide exactly the right mix that makes sense for you. When it comes time to look for a job in IT, there are four basic elements that you will need. The first element is to have some type of formal education. The second is an industry certification or multiple industry certifications. The third will be practical experience. And the last on the list is personal connections. We're going to go through all four of these, and I'm going to give you detailed information on what you can do to best position yourself for all four of these elements. When I say a formal education, I'm referring to something that is a 2-year degree or 4-year degree here in North America and in other places around the world. A 2-year degree would be something like a community college or technical college degree. These tend to be very focused degrees. I am someone who has a community college degree. I have my associate's in arts degree, my AA degree from a community college, and that's how I got started with my formal education. There's also folks that prefer to look at a 4-year degree where you can extend that another 2 years, usually at a college or university. These degrees tend to be a little more well-rounded. There might be a broader perspective of not only learning what your major topic might be, but you also might get knowledge of history and art as well with that 4-year degree. Keep in mind that your formal degree does not necessarily have to be an information technology degree. My particular 4-year degree is in business management. It's not a technical degree, and yet my entire career was spent in IT. Another thing you may find is that some formal degrees are better than others. Some degrees from a private university may be better or worse than some from a public university. So you really need to do your research and find out if getting a degree from this particular institution is one that really makes sense for your plans if you're ever wanting to work in IT. Let's look at the advantages and the disadvantages of getting a formal education. We'll start with the advantages. One of the things that is often presented in studies of 4-year degrees is that someone with a formal education tends to make more money over the lifetime of their career. If money is a driving factor for you, that might be something important to consider. This might also give you more options in the future because many employers like to see someone with a formal education. And there are many job openings and job opportunities that some employers require that you have this formal education. There are some disadvantages to getting a formal education. If you've ever looked at the price tag for getting one of these 2-year or 4-year degrees, they are not inexpensive. So you do have to plan what the finances will be if you need to get one of these formal degrees. This is also not something that you can turn around in a couple of weeks. These are 2-year or 4-year commitments. In my case, it was a 5-year commitment to get my 4-year degree. So you also have to keep that in mind, especially if you're planning for the future. And you might also be in a situation where you already have a formal degree, and that degree doesn't really include anything related to IT. And that may not be a deal breaker. It certainly wasn't in my case, but there may be some 2 or 4-year degrees that work better to transition into IT than others. Having a business degree or an economics degree may provide you with more advantages than someone who might have a degree in arts or music. If you
Was macht eine Qualitätsaktie aus? Und wie findest du planbar unterbewertete Aktien mit einem Renditepotenzial von
already have a 2 or 4-year degree, even if it's not related to an IT topic, take advantage of that degree. You're someone who has proved that you can be trained, and employers like to see that you're someone who can look at a long-term goal and be able to get through that entire process. If you don't already have a degree, then you may want to think about getting one as a good long-term investment. Make sure you find the right organization or right educational institution that has the type of degree and the topic that you would like to learn, especially if you're interested in getting into IT. And if you already have a job somewhere and that particular employer can offer you benefits that will give you an education for free, make sure you take advantage of that. Being able to go through and get your 4-year degree and have your employer pay for it can really provide you with huge dividends, not only in the immediate time frame, but throughout your entire career. Now let's talk about the second element that you need on this job search, and that would be industry certifications. This is very specific to IT. You don't often see a lot of certifications on the computer science side. It tends to be very focused on information technology. And it's something that employers very often will look for. If you look at job openings, you'll see that a lot of certifications will be mentioned. They always want to see that you have the latest version of these technologies, and it's not uncommon for some certifications to be aged out and other newer certifications suddenly become very popular. If you happen to see that employers are looking for a very specific certification, then you may want to look into getting that particular cert before applying for that job. There are some employers that really would like to see you with a particular certification, and they might have a contractual reason to be able to have people on staff who are certified. But there's some employers who do not have that heavy of an emphasis on certifications. It really depends on who the hiring manager might be or the hiring organization. So it's up to you to decide whether you pursue a particular certification or not. One very important consideration that really applies to any of the elements in this entire presentation is that none of them are meant to replace another. Very often you may hear people say, well, certification doesn't replace experience. Well, no, it doesn't. But experience also doesn't replace certifications. There may be times when you find an employer requires you to have a particular certification before working for their organization. It's not that one is better or worse than the other. It depends on what the mix of qualifications is that employer is looking for. Now let's look at the advantages and disadvantages of these industry certifications. One is the cost. Compared to a 2-year degree or 4-year degree, an industry certification is relatively inexpensive. There are some certifications that you can study from a book, watch videos on YouTube, and be able to walk into the exam and earn that particular cert. It also sets a universal baseline of what your knowledge should be if you're someone who's passed that exam. That's not to say that everyone who has ever passed a certification exam has the same level of knowledge as everyone else who has passed that exam, but it does give employers a good place to start. And if you are someone who has gone through this process of earning that certification, then you have most likely learned something along the way and you become a better technologist because you've gone through the process. As I mentioned earlier, these can be often a starting point for an employer that requires you to have a particular certification. So having that would be a significant advantage. And having that minimum job requirement lets you know that you're applying for a job that really does fit your particular skill set. From a disadvantage perspective, the value of that industry certification is really based on what the hiring manager or hiring company would like to be able to see in that certification, and that varies depending on who you talk to. Simply earning a particular certification doesn't guarantee that you're going to get a particular job. Earning that certification also doesn't guarantee that you have a particular skill set either. Some people barely pass a certification exam and learn the bare minimum, and other people really go into the details and try to understand all of the nuances of that technology before taking a certification exam. So it's up to the hiring company to determine your particular skill set. They can't always rely on the certification to be a guideline. You might also find that some employers prefer certain certifications over another, and then you're in a position where you have to decide, do I go after this certification or something else to be able to meet the expectations of these hiring managers? You also don't want to be in a position where you're simply collecting certifications from many different parts of IT and putting them in a large list that you happen to collect, especially if you've never gotten a job in IT before. You don't want to automatically overqualify yourself before you get that first IT position. So should you get that IT certification? Well, they're almost always useful. If not in the hiring process, they're useful for you to learn more about the technology, and you'll certainly be able to use that on the job. This is also a competitive situation. There will be other people fighting for the same position that you're interested in, and this might give you a little bit more of an edge over someone who doesn't have this certification. It can also be a way to compensate when you don't have a very strong showing in some of the other elements that we're talking about in this video. So having more certifications might give you a little bit more credibility. And of course, regardless of whether an employer likes your certification, you've gone through the process of earning it and you've actually learned something along the way. That can be great if you get into a technical interview and the employer wants to know more about what you have done from a technical perspective.
Stop using ChatGPT and Canva like children's toys. Here's how to use them right.
So
this video is about how to get a job in IT without experience. That experience is an important element during the employment process. And we're going to talk about what that means because you may be able to get some type of real-world experience without actually having an IT job previously. The biggest conflict you always hear, of course, is that you can't get experience unless you have a job, and you can't have a job unless you have experience. But that's not entirely true. There are ways to earn experience without having that job. Many of the jobs that you end up starting with in IT are help desk jobs or service level jobs. They could also be jobs that are remote technicians or someone that travels around to repair different types of equipment. These jobs are almost never designed to be long-term positions. These are jobs that will get you into the workplace and allow an employer to evaluate your skills and see where they can move you up within your organization to higher level IT positions. Not all of these jobs are going to require some type of formal experience, but what an employer does look for is some type of expertise. And one of the things you can do is learn more about these technologies, even if you don't have a formal job experience to back them up. One of the realities of the job hunt is that some employers prefer experience over anything else. Of all the elements that you're bringing to the table, they would prefer that you had this experience already. And in many cases, they would like to see that you have this experience across many different kinds of technologies. They'd like you to understand different operating systems, and how the network operates, and how security fits into all of these things. And those are some significant advantages for someone who does have practical industry experience. There's not too many disadvantages for having some of this experience already. Certainly, if you've already been working in the industry, you have to have a certain amount of time invested to be able to say that you have this experience. There are certainly employers that are looking for you to have 1 year or 2 years of a type of experience. And obviously, it takes time to accumulate that experience and have that as something you can put on your resume. Another important aspect of experience that can be a disadvantage is that you may have already worked in a particular job that now overqualifies you for something else in another position. These are real concerns, and you have to make sure that when you are applying for a job, that you are the best type of fit for your particular skill set. So how can you get some experience if you've never had a job? Well, there's a number of different ways to approach this. If you're a student who's still in school, you may be able to find some internships that will work with your institution so that you not only are getting on-the-job experience, but you're also getting some credits that you can use towards your schoolwork. There might also be opportunities in your area to volunteer. This doesn't have to be a huge amount of time or investment. This may be an organization that simply needs to make sure that their antivirus and anti-malware is up to date and that all of their systems are running properly. This may be something you could ask about on Volunteer Match or Catch a Fire or one of those similar websites. And you might want to check with local clubs, local nonprofits, ask your friends in places of worship, and maybe they have some ideas of someone that might need someone to come in for an hour every other week so that you can make sure all of their systems are running efficiently. This is also a good time to start reading more about the technology in general. There are plenty of IT podcasts, websites, the industry news, and you want to be sure that you keep up with the latest of what's going on in our industry. And one of the things that you could use to perhaps give you the most amount of experience is to build your own lab. All of the technologies we use in the enterprise and our biggest data centers are the same technologies that you can build in a virtual machine or in systems that you can run in your own house. Building your own lab also gives you a huge opportunity to create stories that you can then use when you go to an interview, and that way the employer can get an understanding of some of the technical experience that you've created for yourself at home. Here's some examples of some labs that you can build at home to get familiar with some of the technologies. A good example is a Windows Server virtual machine. Microsoft provides 180-day evaluations of their Windows Server products. So you can install this into a virtual machine on your own desktop, running VMware or VirtualBox, and then you can set up your own Active Directory infrastructure all on your desktop in a VM. If you're more interested in Linux, then you may want to load up a Linux virtual machine. There are many different Linux distributions to choose from. You can grab a CentOS or a Mint or an Ubuntu configuration, set that up with a MySQL database, set up a content management system like WordPress. There is an almost unlimited number of different things that you can install in Linux and get that running on your network so that you have some practical experience with that operating system. If networking is your thing, you can install a firewall and an intrusion prevention system with pfSense, Untangle, Snort, or many other options that you can run in a Linux VM. You'll be able to look at the data coming into your internet connection to see if somebody's attacking you from the outside. You'll also be able to see what your local computers are doing as they send traffic out to the internet. And if you're looking for good stories to tell in the middle of an interview, these will give you a wealth of stories to be able to pull from. You want to
Das Monday Sales CRM ist definitiv das beste CRM, mit dem ich je gearbeitet habe. Seitdem wir das Monday Sales CRM nutzen,
be sure to document this process regardless of what you plan to set up with your lab, especially when you run into problems. This will be one of the questions you're often asked in an interview, which is tell us about an issue that you've run into and how you resolved it. And you can go through the process of, I set up Microsoft Windows Server. I used a virtual machine. We ran into some networking problems. Here's how I solved those. Then I set up the VM with the Active Directory, but Active Directory was not resolving properly. It was a DNS issue, and here's how I resolved the DNS issue. These are stories that may seem very mundane, but when you're explaining this to an employer and talking to them about what you configured, a problem that you ran into, and the thought process you went through to resolve that problem, you're getting across to the employer that there are some practical experiences that you've had, and you can use that knowledge whenever you work in a position that is in somebody else's IT organization. It might be useful to screenshot some of this information or to even start a screen recording so that you can capture really exactly what you were doing on the screen during that setup process. And now the fourth and last element in our job search is personal connections. You often hear the phrase, it's not what you know, it's who you know. It's probably a combination of what you know and who knows you more than anything else. This networking of people you know can really come in handy when it comes time to go into an interview. Knowing any single person who happens to work in that company can give you an advantage during this job process. So you want to be sure that you're able to reach out to people who are in your church, people you've worked with before, friends of the family. Let them all know that you're interested in working in a particular job in IT and see if they know anybody in their particular company who may be hiring. This can be a direct person that you happen to know. It could be a friend of a friend. But as long as there's a connection, you still now have a way to describe that particular personal connection when you walk into the interview room. This doesn't have to be someone who you have a close relationship with. This could be an acquaintance or a friend of a friend, and that is your connection whenever you walk into the interview room. This networking with other people gives you an advantage because it opens doors. I've had probably about 15 different titles in my career. Sometimes I've moved within different jobs within the same company, or I've moved from company to company, but I've done this about 14 or 15 times in my career. The first job I got, I didn't know anybody who worked there, but every single position that I got after that job, I knew somebody who worked in that company. That's a significant advantage, and it's an advantage you should absolutely use if you're trying to get past the point of not having enough experience in the industry. You might even be able to find jobs you had no idea existed, but thanks to these connections and friends that you've made, they were able to let you know that there was a particular job opening. There might also be a financial advantage for somebody to bring you into their company. Many organizations have finder's fees or employee referral fees that they will give by simply bringing someone in and sharing their resume with the human resources department. So this might be a win-win. You're able to get a job and the person who's referred you is able to get a bonus. And one of the things that I found almost universally in IT is that we are always willing to help someone else. There's very commonly a large group of people that are always keeping up with each other. And when somebody needs a particular position, everybody's looking around to find the right fit for that particular individual. Of course, one of the biggest disadvantages, if you're relying on personal connections, is that you have to have personal connections already. This is something you have to think about from the very beginnings of your career all the way through your entire career, years down the road. So you have to make sure that you spend the time to be able to make these connections. And as you meet people in the industry, this becomes a little bit easier, but this is not something that you can build overnight. It may take a long period of time as you add people to your LinkedIn, you collect people's business cards, you make sure you know and keep up with where people happen to be in the industry. So this could take months or even years to build a very good network of people. You also have to be very careful not to abuse this relationship that you have with someone. They're bringing you into their organization, so you have to make sure that the job that you're looking at is one that you're really serious about. Well, how do you build these relationships with people? There's lots of books that might tell you how to do this. Keith Ferrazzi has a book that says, Never Eat Alone. He says, if you're going out to lunch, you should always hit your Rolodex. You should always look at your contact list and find somebody who's available to go to lunch with you. This should be a long-term goal and something that you think about all the time in your career. Make sure that if you're just starting out, that you have a LinkedIn page. Make sure that LinkedIn page is updated as things change in your career. And you may even want to add additional information just so people know what you're doing in your career. It's also a good idea to get to know the professionals in your area. There are Microsoft user groups and Cisco user groups and local trade shows and meetups where you'll be able to meet the people that are already working in these jobs with companies where you would like to work. And it's always a good idea to ask someone if you can send them a LinkedIn request and make sure that you're able to keep up with each other, especially if it's an organization where they do have employee referrals. They may ask you for a resume, and having a LinkedIn connection is a great way to always keep track of that. You might also want to look back at people that you've had in classes in school, friends that you've had in the past. Make sure they're part of your LinkedIn as well, because you never know where that next job is going to come from. So those are the 4 elements. And it's great if you have a balanced approach across all 4 of those, but very few of us do. we are often stronger in one than the other. So you want to make sure that if you're missing one of these elements, a practical IT experience, that you're able to boost the other elements to hopefully compensate a little bit more for those that are missing. For example, if you have the ability to get a formal degree, a technical degree preferably, then you can put that on a scale. You may want to make sure that if you don't have industry certifications, that you get some that would apply to the jobs that happen to be in your area. If you don't have that practical experience, think about volunteering or things that you could do to help build more of a knowledge of IT, especially something that you could show to a prospective employer. And of course, you want to have those personal connections. Make sure that you've got your LinkedIn page and that you're able to build and grow that page as you meet other people in the industry.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it, just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44.
So now back to the question that started this video, which is, how do you get a job in IT if you don't have any practical experience? If you're someone who's simply surfing around some of the job posting sites and you're occasionally throwing your resume into a job posting, then you're not going about this in a way that's giving you the best possible opportunity for positive outcome. There needs to be a strategy to this, especially if it's a situation where you don't have experience that you can rely on. I recommend that you get a lay of the land, that you understand exactly where the employers are in your area, what job postings they happen to have available, and what they're looking for in those job postings. This is a perfect opportunity to build a spreadsheet that will summarize what the different organizations in your area might be looking for. So your spreadsheet might have the name of the company. It might have a listing of what the job posting is, maybe when the job was posted, what the minimum educational requirement is, what the minimum technical requirement is, and then any other requirements they may have for that particular job. Once you've done that for every company in your area, you'll now start to see some similarities. You'll get to see if everyone wants to have a formal education. Are there certain certifications that everyone would like you to have? You'll be able to see some commonalities, and you'll be able to see when things start diverging between all of these different job postings. Once you now know all of the jobs that are open in your area that you're interested in, you could start applying to each one of those. And this is an important thing to remember, is that you should not be disqualifying yourself based on those job requirements. If this is a job that you would like, you should apply to that particular position. Don't worry that you might not fit the particular educational experience or technical experience that they list in that job posting. It's up to the employer to make the decision on whether you get rejected or not. You need to provide them with the option, and then they can decide whether you're the best fit for that job or not. It can also be a challenge to stay positive during this job hunt because you're getting so many rejections back as you're putting in these job postings. But it only takes one single employer to offer you a job to make all of those things worth the time. You want to make sure that you're not missing an opportunity and that you're putting your application into every posting that you can find. There have been people that have posted on Reddit that said they have put 200 applications in before they ever got that job that they were looking for. So never limit yourself and never sell yourself short. You should always be applying to these positions every time you find a job you're interested in. Hopefully that's given you some ideas of how you can best position yourself to get a job in the IT industry without any formal experience. We have a lot of things on our website that may be able to help you. We've certainly got our IT certification videos and other training materials available. And we have monthly study groups where you can call in and talk to other IT professionals about trying to find that perfect IT job. Thanks for watching, and best of luck with your job hunt.
Okay.
So you've seen Oscar-winning performance.
Okay, so that's the video. That's the video with Professor Mercer on how to get an IT job without experience. And he delved deeper, explaining the details of what it takes, what are the skill sets you need. if you don't have a bachelor's degree in information technology, what are the certifications you may require, and if you have a certification but you don't have a job in that field, what it takes for you to pursue a job. Maybe you can start by volunteering, discussing with friends, families, and loved ones. Initially volunteering. While volunteering, you can learn skills, and then networking with family, friends, and people involved in the job market that can, pitch to their friends and people that have opportunities within that area of work to give you that opportunity you might need to start a job. So that's it. And the second video, let me look at the second video. Second video was basically how to start from article. Okay, so this is the second video, how I went from 33K help desk to 200K cybersecurity. So that's the video we're going to be looking at. So let me go back and share my screen here, and then let's go into the second video, and then we can call it quick. So that's it here. Okay.
So how did I go from help desk to cybersecurity architect with no boot camps or college degrees? So glad you asked. In this video today, I'm going to share my story. I'm going to give you the step-by-step playbook that I took that took me from the help desk to become the senior security architect for the world's largest airline, and eventually earning over $200,000 a year as a cybersecurity consultant. Are you ready for this? Let's go. Hey cyber heroes, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new, I'm Boyd Cluis, an internationally recognized cybersecurity expert, and I help IT guys upgrade their jobs into a six-figure cybersecurity career. If you want to join me on this journey, be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the red bell so that you're notified every time I drop new content, guaranteed to help you take your career to six figures and beyond in cybersecurity. All right, guys, so let's jump right in. I'm going to take you back to 2005 when I was a lot skinnier. At the University of North Texas, I enrolled there as a freshman on the track team. Shout out to the Mean Green Track Squad. I was a high jumper, triple jumper, and long jumper. Anyway, I went to school for accounting. I had no inkling that I was even interested in IT, so it never even occurred to me. Well, I went to University of North Essex. I was there for a couple of years, and then I failed out due to some personal circumstances. So I find myself in 2007 with no skills and needing a job. So what I did was I actually took a job at a copier company, and I was working in accounts receivable, and I was making $33,000 a year. And yeah, that wasn't a lot of money, especially I had a wife and kids and everything. It wasn't a lot of money. So I was working in the billing department in accounts receivable, doing billing reconciliation. There we go. I freaking hated it. It was a lot of work. It was a lot of work. The company was based in Dallas. I live in Texas, right? But the headquarters was actually in New Jersey. So whenever a computer would break from one of my employees, coworkers or whatnot, they would literally have to box up the computer and ship it to New Jersey for them to fix it. I was like, okay. All right, but here's the challenge with that. When the person's computer was down and it was New Jersey, I had to do the work, and I was not having that. So guys, if you look back to my video last week when I talked about getting promoted, one of the things that I told you is when you see problems, look for solutions. Don't just gripe about it. So I saw a problem. The problem was computers have to be shipped back to New Jersey, and then I have to do all the work. Not happy with that at all. So what I did was I got on the Googles and I figured out how to repair the computers that were broken myself so that they didn't have to get shipped back. I started, and that gave me the interest in IT. And then the iPhone came out and it was just on for there. I'm doing these computer repairs, still not getting paid for it, right? I'm also setting up users access to new printers whenever new employees were coming. I'm doing a little troubleshooting work just by things that I'm reading on Google, and I'm liking this. So then you fast forward 3 years into doing this or so, the company decided to shut down operations and move operations to California. Me making $33,000 a year was not going to make it in California. Oh my goodness, not at all. I was laid off. Fortunately for me, when I was laid off, one of my coworkers, she knew I was interested in IT, and she sent me this thing that's called Creative Ventures from CompTIA. So this foundation was actually providing free IT training for people that were laid off. And so I just so happened that I was selected as one of the people that could receive free training. So they gave me access to an online training program. It was all self-paced that eventually taught me the skills that I needed in order to get the A+ certification. And they also provided the voucher for that. So it was pretty cool. I ended up getting laid off from the job. I was unemployed, but within about 60 days or so, I was able to get the A+ certification. And then I was on cloud 9. Because you know what they say, right? You get certifications, and then you go get the job, and then you go get the money. No, that's not how that worked. And so, guys, I want y'all to understand this, like where my passion is when I talk about like these certifications and skills, because my entire business and everything that I've built is literally based on my experience. I don't fabricate nothing. I give it to you real. So I got this A+ certification, and I did exactly what you're doing right now. You're probably watching me on one screen, and then on the other screen, you're probably applying for jobs right now because you just got your certification. Yeah, as soon as I would submit those job applications and with my new certification, they were rejected. They're rejected. And so now I knew it was like certifications don't help you land the job. So what I did was I had to rebrand myself. So what you need to do is you need to look at your resume and ask yourself, does this person on paper align with this position that I'm applying for? So in my position, I was an accounts receivable person applying for tech support roles, and it did not line up. So here is a major key for you that you need to understand. Your experience is your experience, and you can tell it however you want to tell it. So what I did is I rebranded myself. I pulled that resume back out, and I removed all accounts receivable information from my resume. And what I did was I replaced it with all the tech support work that I did in my accounts receivable job. So my job title on paper was customer service assistant support, something like that. So I updated my resume job title to tech support, which is true because in the company I function in the role of tech support as I was fixing computers, removing viruses, installing patches, configuring printers and software. And that's the information that I actually put on my resume. So boom, I started to get a lot more traction now because I have congruency with my certification, with my skill set and the jobs that I'm applying for. So I actually ended up going to Craigslist and applying for a junior network technician role. And I went and interviewed at the company, and they were like, hey boy, you don't have the skills that we're looking for, but we like your attitude, so we're gonna hire you and we're gonna train you. And I was like, yes. This time I've been unemployed for about 90 days. I get my first offer in IT, and it is $40,000. So I've already increased my income $7,000 in just a few months by landing my first IT job. Keep in mind that A+ certification did absolutely nothing for me. It was the knowledge that I learned when I went through the actual training is what helped me get the job. So that is the first part. So now we're at 40,000. Okay guys, so the second part happened. So I'm working as this junior network technician for a company that is an MSP, which is a managed service provider. They had about 40 different companies that they were providing IT services for, and I was the main technician. From the onset, it was a bit overwhelming, but eventually I learned to love it because I was able to learn so many new technologies across different business verticals that helped me become the man that I am today. So it was really cool, but it was a lot of hours. So as a junior network technician, I'm making 40K. I'm doing support. I'm removing viruses. I'm troubleshooting. I'm running cables in the ceiling, getting dirty. I'm getting the full IT gambit, like all the way around. that was a really cool experience. And I used that as a launch pad to get to the next phase of my career. So I did that for a few years, and then I made the transition into server support, right? So I went from accounting to tech support, and then I moved to server support. So I started working for a software company, and the software company was paying me $60,000 a year. So now I'm making even more money. And this is where things start to get a little interesting. So I'm at this software company, and I decide that, hey, I'm at this point where I'm making $60,000 now. I'm doing server troubleshooting.
Imagine seeing your health data and knowing exactly how to live longer. The Hume Band helps you slow aging, prevent age-related
and monitoring. I worked in the NOC, which is the Network Operating Center, and I worked overnights. And so while I'm working overnight, I am finding every resource I can online to study for new certifications, because I figure the more certs I can get, the more money I can make. And so that was the thought process that I had. So I started accumulating certifications left and right. But here's the deal. I didn't pay for these certifications, right? What I did was I brokered a deal with my company. I told them that I would study on my own to get the knowledge to pass the certification. I just need y'all to pay for the test. And so if you're taking notes, write this down: www.cbtnuggets.com. They are one of the IT training companies that I trust personally, because they help me pass so many certifications. I'm talking about CISSP, Microsoft, MCP, all that good stuff, right? So I had a membership with CBT Nuggets. They helped me pass so many certifications. I'm talking about CISSP, the Microsoft, MCP, all that good stuff, right? So with my company, I told them that I would study on my own to get the knowledge to pass the certification. I just need y'all to pay for the test. And so if you're taking notes, write this down: www.cbtnuggets.com. They are one of the IT training companies that I trust personally, because they help me pass so many certifications. I'm talking about CISSP, the Microsoft, MCP, all that good stuff, right? So I had a membership with CBT Nuggets. I went through the training because my workload was very, very light. So I accumulate all of these certifications. I got CompTIA Network Plus, Security Plus, CompTIA Project Plus. I got Microsoft MCP. This is over a span over about 3 years. I got all these certifications. And so because I got these certifications, I started to submit my resume out trying to get to the next level. I wanted to be making $100,000 a year. I'm submitting these resumes. I got my experience now, and I got all these certifications, but nothing was happening. What I did was, again, if refer back to the video from last week when I talked about getting promoted, I figured I would go the route of promotion instead of exit. So I intentionally expressed my interest in cybersecurity to my leadership. So I had already got the cybersecurity certifications. Then I started doing risk assessments on our company. So I would look at how we were processing payment transactions, how we were processing data, how our servers were configured, and I put together a risk assessment list. And they actually found it very, very valuable. And what they did from that is actually created a security analyst position for me, and they gave me a raise. So at this time now, I'm at $76,000 a year. We're getting closer to the 100K mark, right? And that was really, really exciting for me. But here's the deal. At this time, I got a laundry list of certifications, and I'm only making $76,000 a year. Now, keep in mind, I got A+, Network Plus, Security Plus, Project Plus, Microsoft MCP, Microsoft MTA, SolarWinds certification. That's like 8 certifications, and I'm making $76,000 a year. Something's not right. Something's not right. But let me tell you when it all changed. All right, guys. Now, I know this story is interesting. This is a really good time for you to click that subscribe button down there and like this video. Now let's get back to the story. Okay, so I'm making $76,000 a year working as a security analyst for a software company. And then something very, very interesting happens. Now, at this time, I'm still working nights. I'm still working nights in the NOC. And so I actually get a call from my manager, and he asked me to come have a conversation with him during the day shift. And I'm like, oh, I don't know about that. Seems kind of interesting. But I did it anyway. And he's asked me, he's like, hey, Boyd, I need your help with this thing. Would you be willing to do it? What he was asking is if I was willing to help out with the cybersecurity assessment, because the company was actually on the verge of failing it. And I was like, why? I thought we were good. You know, I did the risk assessment. Anyway, he's like, go look over in the conference room and then come back and you tell me. I go over to the conference room and I have a look and I immediately see it. The guy that is running the security assessment for the company, he is in there and he is snoring dead sleep in front of the security auditor. Yeah, that really happened. So I was like, sure. I didn't know anything about this security assessment, but what I did know is I know how to study and how to consume knowledge. So one of the things that you guys have to understand is, like, with everything that I'm telling y'all, all the certifications that I got, everything was self-done. I essentially curated my own curriculums and I became engulfed in this. Like, this wasn't just a job for me, it was a career transformation. It was a way for me to provide for my life. I didn't know anything else outside of IT that was going to get me to the level of income to provide for my family. So I was serious about it. So when they gave me this opportunity, I immediately went over to the PCI security standards website and I downloaded the security framework, because this assessment that we're talking about was the PCI DSS assessment. And I had no idea what that was. So this is around 2014. I had no idea what it was. So I downloaded the standard. I went home over the weekend. I just engulfed myself in it. Like, what do these requirements mean? What's expected from the company? And then I eventually took over the assessment and helped the company pass. The auditors were like, hey man, you could actually be really good at this. And I'm like, but I don't want to do what you're doing, because like, you're asking me questions and interviewing and I'm showing you all this stuff, but I get to do all the technical stuff.
You don't need a second job. You just need to learn how to talk to AI. Let's be real. Most people over 40 use ChatGPT like...
I get to support servers. I get to do patch management, all the technical stuff. And I was like, so I'm just curious, so how much are you guys making? He was like, about 150,000. I was like, what? Okay, clearly I'm in the wrong space. So after I helped the company complete that assessment, I had a whole different vision for my career and what it was that I was going to do. So I convinced the company to send me to PCI training. I went to the training, I aced it, established some really good relationships with people at the PCI Council. And so now I am a certified PCI guy that has been through some assessments. I got experience. I am marketable. I took immediate action on that. So I started doing my research online and I started seeing how many PCI jobs were available and what the skill sets that were required for them. And I was like, I can do this. And then that's when the strangest thing happened. I actually ended up getting a call from American Airlines for a position. Now this was actually a 6-figure role, but it was for vulnerability management. At this time, I had the company pay for my CISSP. So I had the PCIP certification, which is payment card industry, and I had the CISSP. I went to American Airlines, I interviewed, I smashed this role, and they still don't hire me. At this time, I probably have like 10 certifications, and they still did not give me the job. And like, I was crushed from it. I was crushed. Here I am, still have all these certifications, and I'm trying to get to 100,000. I'm stuck at 76. It was frustrating. It was very, very frustrating, but I didn't give up. What I did was I decided to dig deeper. I started to engulf myself even more in the PCI DSS. I started joining forums. I started going to events. I realized like this was going to be my way out. Okay, so I didn't get the job at American Airlines, but that didn't stop me. So I went back to the software company and I buckled down even harder on the PCI DSS framework, helping my company get through the next assessment. Also redesigning our network so that we could process payments even more securely, implementing new ideas to increase security. So I had a really good time working there while gaining some practical experience, even though I was still only making $76,000 a year. 18 months later, I get a phone call again from American Airlines to interview, but this time, instead of a vulnerability management position, it is for a senior security architect role. I interviewed, and I aced it. Aced the interview. They asked me some questions about the PCI PCI DSS requirements. I explained in great detail my knowledge of what I've done, and they were blown away, and they offered me the job on the spot. So at this point in time, my compensation package included flying free around the world. It was pretty cool. $150,000. So I go from $76,000 to $150,000. I didn't add any more certifications. I didn't do anything. What I did was I focused on mastering the PCI DSS framework because I knew the impact that this framework would have, because if companies don't comply and they get breached and they're found to be non-compliant, there could be fines of millions of dollars. So it only made sense. That was my niche. I landed the job at American Airlines, and I immediately began diving in, and it was great. So I became an internal consultant. I helped redesign some of your favorite apps that you might use at American Airlines, give them my input around security and compliance. I got to fly around the world to different locations to advise on physical security, network security, to make sure that we were meeting PCI DSS requirements. So I'm talking about, I got to go to South America. I was able to go to Australia. I was able to go to Italy. I went to so many locations absolutely free, because the standard is not just a US based thing. It is an international standard for any company that stores, processes, or transmits credit card data. So now I'm $150,000, and I am loving my job doing an internal consulting as the senior security architect for the world's largest airline. I did that for about 3 years. After about 3 years making connections around the world, a consulting company approached me at a conference that I was at, and they were like, hey man, we've heard that you've been doing good things in the PCI space, and we would love for you to come work for us. I was like, really? So what they were wanting me to do was become a external auditor at PCI QSA, which is Qualified Security Assessor. When companies have to go through a PCI assessment, they have to engage with a company to perform the security audit for them. I had been working at American Airlines in the software company as an internal employee, preparing for the auditors to come. So now I was switching sides. I was going to become the auditor. So I accepted it. It was really cool. Really.
Mach dein Homeoffice zu deinem Lieblingsplatz mit diesem ergonomischen Bürostuhl von Ofinto. Denn der sieht nicht nur richtig gut aus, sondern lässt dich
really cool. I was able to travel the world. I was able to go to India, Ireland. Oh my goodness. Just all over the world performing security assessments. Absolutely free, flying first class in the process. Again, I didn't have to add any more certifications, no college degree, none of that. And this time, my salary is around $200,000 a year. So let's put this into context. The way my salary looked, I had a base salary of $180,000. Plus I had bonuses that were based on company initiatives and whatnot. And so my annual compensation rounded out about $200,000 every year. That's what I did before I decided to quit. Yes, I quit a $200,000 job so that I could help people just like you watching this video get to the end part of my career, where you're making the money in the PCI space, not doing the help desk work, not doing the server support, working overnight for 70 grand, but helping people bypass that part to go into six-figure careers as payment and security specialist. And by the way, if you want to learn the skills that can help you become a payment security specialist, you know what to do. Click the link in the description or go over to boydclewis.com/GRC. Apply to join the Baxter Clewis Training Academy, and I would be glad to lead you, teach you the skills, and help you think like a cybersecurity specialist so that you can change your life and make the money that you really deserve. So guys, question for you. Did you realize that you can make over $200,000 a year without a college degree or skills like hacking or coding? Did you know that? Let me know down in the comments. Well guys, that's it for this video. I hope that you found some value from my story. And remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel so that you're notified whenever I drop new.
Okay, that's it. That brings us to the close of this episode. So guys, that's it. That's what we wanted to share for this episode. That does it for this episode on the Saturday. We look forward to seeing you next Saturday. Continue to like, share, support the podcast. We appreciate you. See you next Saturday. Bye.